اور محمد وعلی محمد صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد وعلی محمد. اس قوم کے رونے کو یہی بات بڑی ہے، اس قوم کے رونے کو یہی بات بڑی ہے. زہرا بھرے دربار میں حق مانگ رہی ہے، اس قوم کے رونے کو یہی بات بڑی ہے. اٹھ اٹھ کے خاک اڑاتی ہے جو بن میں، اٹھ اٹھ کے خاک اڑاتی ہے جو بن میں، شاید علی اصغر کو بہن ڈھونڈ رہی ہے. تا دیر تڑپتے رہے تعظیم کو لاشیں، تا دیر تڑپتے رہے تعظیم کو لاشیں. یہ کون ضعیفہ ہے جو مقتل میں کھڑی ہے، برچی علی اکبر تیرے سینے میں گڑی ہے، برچی علی اکبر تیرے سینے میں گڑی ہے، پر چوٹ تو زینب کے کلیجے پہ پڑی ہے، پر چوٹ تو زینب کے کلیجے پہ پڑی ہے. سجاد تو خاموش ہے بازار میں لیکن، سجاد تو خاموش ہے بازار میں لیکن، زنجیر کی ایک ایک کڑی بول رہی ہے. تاریخ ذرا سانس کو روکے ہوئے رکھنا، عمران کی غیرت سوئے دربار چلی ہے، اس قوم کے رونے کو यही बात बड़ी है। और मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलाम।
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. For the love of our beloved Prophet and his beloved progeny, please recite a loud salawat. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. For the hastening in the return of our beloved 12th Imam, please recite a second loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ajil farajahum. I would like to start tonight's program, inshallah, with offering our condolences on the shahadat of our beloved 6th Imam, Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, to our dear brothers and sisters, to our community, to our dear Maraje, and more than anybody else, to our beloved 12th Imam, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. The topic that we have prepared for tonight is the topic of the spiritual aspect of the character of Ja'far ibn Muhammad. And as I go through the topic and we open it up and we go through the different layers of the character of the 6th Imam, it will become more and more clear what exactly I mean by this. When you look at the school of thought, the Shia school of thought, we know that the 6th Imam holds a very important status, a very important place and position as it relates to this school of thought. And that is why even in history, when they wanted to refer to someone who is a Shia, they would refer to him as a Ja'fari. And even today, when someone wants to refer to himself as a Shia, one way to refer to himself is a Ja'fari. Beyond that, we know that the Shia school of thought is also known as the Ja'fari school of thought. So the 6th Imam and the place that he has in terms of how he defined our school of thought is very clear and it's very much understood. And this word Ja'far itself, if you look at the linguistic root of the word Ja'far, you find that it refers to a concept of a spring or a river. And linguists, they say that the reason why someone would be called Ja'far is that this person would have a lot of capacity. Sometimes you might come across somebody who has a lot of capacity in his heart. This individual is called Ja'far in the Arabic language. Nonetheless, the word Ja'far and the Shia school of thought have pretty much become synonymous at this point. And therefore we know that the 6th Imam, he holds a very important status, a very important place as it relates to the Shia school of thought. Having said that, moving on, when we look in the history of the life of the 6th Imam, what you find is that the 6th Imam is very much well known as a person of knowledge. He is very much appreciated as a person who carried a lot of knowledge with himself. And when I say this, this is not only the companions of his who were there around him. Yes, when we read in history, we read that, for example, the number of students of the Imam, different numbers have been mentioned for that. But one of the numbers is 4,000, for example, and this is the famous number that we might have heard before. 4,000 individuals coming and writing the ahadith, narrating the ahadith of the sixth Imam. And then some of them, of course, there was verbal transmission, meaning that they would come and they would hear what the Imam was saying, and then they would pass it on as they would disperse and go on to their different cities. Some of them were from Kufa, many of them from Kufa, some from Baghdad, some from Khurasan, different areas where the Muslim Ummah was dispersed at this point. Some of them, beyond just hearing, beyond just doing sama' and hearing what the Imam had to say, they would also take pen to paper and they would actually write the ahadith of the Imam, and therefore they would pass along the ahadith of the Imam throughout history from one generation to another generation. And different numbers you find will be mentioned with regards to how many individuals were actually transmitting the ahadith of the sixth Imam. As I mentioned, as it relates to the students who would gather to hear the sessions and the classes of the sixth Imam, you would find the number of 4,000. And then hadith says and narrations say that when people used to go to other cities, in particular Kufa, which was a center of Islamic knowledge, and it was a center for the followers of the Ahlul Bayt at that time, the narrator says that when I used to enter into the masjid of Kufa, I could hear and see 900 people narrating from the sixth Imam, and all of them were saying Haddathani Ja'far ibn Muhammad, meaning that Ja'far, the son of Muhammad, the sixth Imam, he told me so and so, such and such, this hadith that I'm going to share. And therefore the character of Ja'far ibn Muhammad as it relates to his knowledge, it was very much appreciated. In history also, whether you are Muslim or you're not Muslim, whether you are Shi'i or you are not Shi'i, Ja'fari or you're not Ja'fari, doesn't make a difference. You find that everyone has a deep appreciation of the knowledge of Ja'far ibn Muhammad. Not only his companions, not only just his friends, but even when you look amongst his enemies, even when you look amongst those who you would assume were challenging the sixth Imam, you also find this admiration for the amount and the size of knowledge that Ja'far ibn Muhammad was carrying with him. Amongst these individuals are two individuals that you find narrated in history that used to come to the sixth Imam and they used to challenge the sixth Imam. The first was an individual by the name of Abu Shakir ad-Daysani or ad-Dayasani, and the second was an individual by the name of Ibn Abil Awja. When you look in history, you read the interactions that these two individuals had with the sixth Imam sometimes, and also sometimes with the students of the sixth Imam. You find that Abu Shakir ad-Dayasani, even though he challenged the sixth Imam on multiple occasions, there came a moment where the knowledge of the sixth Imam was so much it overcame him, and therefore he became a believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said the Shahadatain at one point, and this is mentioned in one of the debates that he was having, or one of those moments he was challenging the sixth Imam. It is mentioned that Abu Shakir at one point he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah wa annaka waliyullah, and that you are the representative of this prophet. This is as it relates to Abu Shakir. On the other hand, you had Ibn Abil Awja. Ibn Abil Awja, of course, was more arrogant. And he had so much arrogance in his heart that when he approached the sixth Imam, when he approached the students of the sixth Imam, his whole goal was to undermine the faith of everyone who was a Muslim, whether they are Shi'i or they're not Shi'i, but particularly when it came to the sixth Imam, because the sixth Imam was a flag bearer of knowledge at that time. If Ibn Abil Awja was able to challenge the sixth Imam, if he was able to defeat the sixth Imam, then that meant that the flag bearer of Islamic knowledge and the flag bearer of Islamic beliefs, this person had been defeated in the debate. And this is why you find Ibn Abil Awja on multiple occasions, he tries to challenge the sixth Imam. But this same Ibn Abil Awja that we read in history, he never became a Muslim because his arrogance did not allow for this. Even he, when he encounters Mufaddal ibn Umar in that famous story, in Masjidun Nabi, in the presence of the grave of the Prophet, in that encounter that he has, in that back and forth that he has with Mufaddal ibn Umar, because Mufaddal loses his temper, he loses his cool, and he starts to yell at Ibn Abil Awja. At the very end of that conversation that the two of these have with one another, Ibn Abi al-Awja mentions a number of lines. And in those lines, there is an admission and a confession to how much knowledge Ja'far ibn Muhammad carries with him. Bear in mind, this is not coming from a companion of the sixth Imam. This is coming from an enemy of the sixth Imam. In that conversation that he's having with Mufaddal ibn Umar al-Ju'fi, he says at the end, when Mufaddal has yelled at him, when Mufaddal has said all these terrible things to him, he then turns to Mufaddal ibn Umar and he says, let me tell you something about your master, Ja'far ibn Muhammad, that even you do not know. And Mufaddal, he doesn't know what Ibn Abi al-Awja is referring to. He says, what is there that you're going to tell me that I don't know about Ja'far ibn Muhammad? He says, let me tell you, Ja'far ibn Muhammad, when we debate him, when we speak to him, when we challenge him, he never loses his cool. He never loses his temper. It is never such that he starts to yell at us or swear at us, even though we challenge him 10 times harder than the way we challenge you today. And then he adds a line at the end of this conversation. He says, when we challenge Ja'far ibn Muhammad, what he does is that he listens intently. He listens very closely. And when we are done with challenging him, and there is a moment of silence, then with a couple of sentences, Ja'far ibn Muhammad, he refutes our arguments. In this one line, with what Ibn Abi al-Awja is really telling us is that Ja'far ibn Muhammad, even though I consider him my opposite, I consider him my adversary, I consider him a person that I am challenging, even so that is the case, but still he is admitting to the amount of knowledge that Ja'far ibn Muhammad carries with him. Within the realm of Islam, when you go beyond the Shia school of thought, you find quotes, you find lines from individuals who do not believe in Ja'far ibn Muhammad as an Imam that show the knowledge that the sixth Imam carried. And the one that stands out more than any of the other of these lines is that famous line from Abu Hanifa, Nu'man ibn Thabit, one of the four Imams of the legal school of thoughts that you have within the Sunni school of thought. He says that I never saw anyone who was more knowledgeable than Ja'far ibn Muhammad. So the appreciation of the knowledge of Ja'far ibn Muhammad is very deep. Everyone has this understanding and everyone is on the same page that if there is anyone during that time who is a flag bearer of knowledge, this individual is no one but the sixth Imam, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Previously recited salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Then when you go beyond this though, you find that aside and beside the knowledge of the sixth Imam, there is also another side to his character, and that is the spiritual side to his character. This side of his character is much more essentially ignored. It is much less well known amongst the Muslims and amongst the people of his own time compared to the knowledge of Ja'far ibn Muhammad. Imam Sadiq is known as a knowledgeable individual. He is known as a scholar, but is he known as a person who can elevate the faith of another individual? Is he known as a person who can take someone who is wayfaring towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He's taking his steps on this journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he can take his hand and take him on this journey. He can guide him on this journey. Is the sixth Imam known from this perspective? You find that in history, a lot of people did not understand this aspect of the character of the Imam. Yes, being a scholar, being a person who carries a lot of weight, that is easy. It's not difficult. In fact, knowledge, what we understand from Islam, is that knowledge, if there is no spirituality that comes with it, it is nothing but a corpse. It's a dead body, and the only way you can revive this dead body is if you breathe spirituality into it. Otherwise, if knowledge is just there without spirituality, if the sixth Imam is a person who carries a lot of knowledge, but there's no spirituality that comes with it, there's no wisdom that comes with it, there's no mysticism that comes with it, there is no ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that comes with it, then this knowledge only makes the difficulty of someone who is moving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even more. And that's why you find in the verses of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he uses a metaphor to explain to us that if someone just has knowledge, and this knowledge does not add and increase their spirituality, and I will explain later on in the talk what that means from a practical perspective. But if this person only is a man of knowledge and he is not a man of spirituality, the Quran explains that that knowledge will only make things heavier for him. It will only make things more difficult. It will only make these steps that he's taking towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more difficult and heavier. That's why in Surah Al-Jum'ah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he is talking about the Jews, when he is talking about the Yahud, he says these Yahud are like animals who are just carrying books with them, heavy and weighty books. يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا. But because they don't take these books and they don't act upon them, because they have this knowledge but the spirituality does not come paired with this knowledge, essentially what has happened is that this knowledge has only become a barrier for them. It has only become more of a weight for them. So as they are moving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now their job is even more difficult. And we have multiple ahadith that highlight this idea. Ja'far ibn Muhammad, an Imam, is not just a man of knowledge. He is a man of knowledge and spirituality. This side of the character of the sixth Imam is much less well known when it comes to just his knowledge. Yes, everybody knows that Ja'far ibn Muhammad had thousands of students that used to come and used to write, and they used to take notes when he opened his mouth. Everybody knows that. But the other side of his character, the spiritual side of his character, this is hidden, and we don't know from history how much the appreciation of the people around him was when it came to the spiritual side of things. This is why you find in history, every now and then there are individuals who describe the spiritual status of the sixth Imam, and then you get a look at the spiritual aspect of the character of Ja'far ibn Muhammad as well. Then you see he is a guide and he is a teacher, not just when it comes to knowledge, not just when it comes to books, not just when it comes to concepts that are in your mind, but also a guide when it comes to the heart of the individual and the human being as well. Recite a salawat, please. Where do we find this in history? You find these lines in history from Malik ibn Anas. Who was Malik ibn Anas? Another student of the sixth Imam, who is also another one of the four Imams of the legal schools of thought within the Sunni school of thought. When I say legal school of thought, we are referring to the concept and the idea of fiqh. We are referring to the idea of laws. When it comes to the theology, when it comes to the belief system, that is a separate discussion, and the schools of thought are different from these four that we are talking about. Nonetheless, Malik ibn Anas, he is one of those famous four Imams of the Sunni school of thought. Of course, he is the one who has established and founded the Maliki school of thought. This individual, Malik ibn Anas, there were times where he was also a student of the sixth Imam, and he describes for us a little bit more than just the knowledge of the sixth Imam. He also describes for us what it was like being around the sixth Imam from a spiritual perspective. He says this, Malik ibn Anas says, whenever I was around Ja'far ibn Muhammad, he was in one of these three states. Either, number one, he was in the state of fasting. Either he was not eating and drinking for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or I saw him, he was carrying out different acts of worship, different ibadat, or the third state and status that I saw Ja'far ibn Muhammad in was that he was remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the dhikr that he was saying. This is the hidden character, the hidden aspect of the character of Ja'far ibn Muhammad. Malik ibn Anas doesn't end here. He then goes on further to explain. He says, whenever I was around the sixth Imam or Ja'far ibn Muhammad, I felt this pleasure of just spending time with him. His majlis, the gathering that you would go and sit in if the sixth Imam or Ja'far ibn Muhammad was there, it was a pleasurable gathering. And then he says this. He says, when he used to teach in his classes, he used to quote the Prophet. He used to say, قَالَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. But whenever he wanted to open his mouth and he wanted to say, the Prophet has said such and such, he wouldn't just say it as if it's nothing. Before he wanted to say Qala Rasulullah, I could see that sometimes he would go pale. This is not knowledge at play here. This is no longer a matter of concepts. It's no longer a matter of just knowing things. This is a matter of having such a deep understanding and appreciation and connection with the character of the Prophet that when you want to quote something from the Prophet, that you go pale. And then Malik continues. He says, when I used to watch the Ja'far ibn Muhammad, when he was quoting the Prophet, he would go pale, so much so that if you knew Ja'far ibn Muhammad, but you saw him in this particular moment, you would not be able to recognize him. Meaning that his facial expression was so different, he would look so different when he wanted to quote the line or the sentence or a quotation from the Prophet, that you would not be able to recognize him anymore at that point. What does this mean? This means that Ja'far ibn Muhammad, the sixth Imam, when he wants to speak of his great-grandfather, the Prophet salawatullahi alayhi, he has such a deep appreciation and respect. He reveres the Prophet so much that just by wanting to mention something that the Prophet was going to mention, that his face would go pale, that his facial expression would be different. For us, it's not like that. For us, we sit here and we quote the Imams. Why? Because we don't have a deep appreciation of the character of the Imams. Because that spiritual side of ours is weak. But when it comes to Ja'far ibn Muhammad, Malik ibn Anas, who did not even see him as an Imam, only may have seen him as a scholar or a pious individual, he says when Ja'far ibn Muhammad wanted to quote the Prophet, you would see that his face would go pale. And then Malik continues. He says, and then there were times that I had the opportunity to go to Hajj with the Imam. We know that the sixth Imam, he was based mainly in Medina, but there were three separate destinations that he had an opportunity to travel to. And when I say an opportunity, it was less of an opportunity and more of a forced trip by the Khulafa. One of them was Baghdad, another one of them was Kufa, which was a center of the studies of the Shia school of thought at that time. And of course the third, which was for Hajj and for the purpose of pilgrimage, was Mecca. Malik ibn Anas says that I had the opportunity to go for Hajj with Ja'far ibn Muhammad. He says, when I was going with Ja'far ibn Muhammad, as we came and we reached this point that is known as the point of miqat. This is that place where you become muhrim, and now the rulings of ihram are now going to apply to you. There's a lot of things that are not allowed for you anymore. Hence the name ihram comes from hurma, comes from something being forbidden. He says, when we came to miqat, and of course when you become muhrim, there is a phrase that you are supposed to mention because you are now responding and communicating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why you have come on this pilgrimage to visit the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, as much as I sat there and I waited for Ja'far ibn Muhammad to say, Allahumma labbaik, Ya Allah, I have come to answer your call. He says, I could see that he could not get this word out of his mouth. And we waited and we waited. And as much as he tried, he was weeping, he was crying, and this had taken over Ja'far ibn Muhammad. He could not stop and say labbaik. He could not stop and say sa'daik. And then he says, I turned to Ja'far ibn Muhammad and I said, Ya Ja'far ibn Muhammad, Ya Aba Abdullah, we need to say this phrase in order to become muhrim. If you don't say this phrase, you will not be considered muhrim. And then he said, Yabna Abi Amir. He said, Malik, let me tell you, I'm afraid that I will say labbaik. I'm afraid that I will call out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that the response will come back, La labbaik wa la sa'daik. This is the fear that Ja'far ibn Muhammad has in his heart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because Ja'far ibn Muhammad was a sinner? No, because he appreciates the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We go to Hajj, we call out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't even care what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to say in response. But Ja'far ibn Muhammad, because he is a man of spirituality, when he comes and he wants to become muhrim, he's at the point of miqat, Malik ibn Anas says that he could barely even say labbaik. He could barely even get this word out of his mouth. This is the hidden aspect of the character of the sixth Imam, the spiritual aspect of his character. Recite a salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum. Having said that, if we want to delve a little bit deeper into the spiritual sayings of the sixth Imam, as is the case with multiple Imams of ours, you can find multiple sayings and multiple ahadith. But when it comes to the sixth Imam in particular, there is a hadith that is very well known among scholars. It's a hadith that's very well known even amongst mystics as well. This is a hadith known as Hadith Unwan al-Basri. It is a hadith in which the sixth Imam really displays his spiritual guidance to the max. He really shows that he's not just a man of knowledge. He also carries, if not more, spirituality than knowledge with him. This is a particular hadith that he mentions to this individual known as Unwan al-Basri. And this is essentially a recipe for Unwan al-Basri in order for him to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The story and the context of this hadith is very critical. I will mention this one point before we actually go into the hadith, that these lines that you find in the words of the sixth Imam, this is mentioned, some of them as general advice, some of them are mentioned specifically for the situation that Unwan al-Basri is going through himself. Because when a scholar, when a spiritual guide, when he gives spiritual advice, this a lot of times is referring to the particular situation that the individual that he is addressing is going through. This is very important to keep in mind. When we hear spiritual advice from the greats, when we hear spiritual advice that, for example, this Ayatullah used to tell his students to mention this dhikr, he used to tell his students to perform this prayer, you have to keep in mind that when an Ayatullah, an alim, a spiritual guide, an arif, when he mentions these things, a lot of times what he's taking into consideration is the specific status of that student of his, where his student stands in terms of his journey when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, when we hear these types of advice, it is not wise, brothers and sisters, to then take those and say, this is exactly what every individual out there is supposed to do. No, for the most of people, for the majority of people, and I'm including myself in this as well, for the majority of us, the most important spiritual advice that you can come across is to stay away from the sinning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is to stay away from haram. And I've mentioned this before and I will mention this again. If anyone assumes that this is a simple thing to do, then they are not doing it consistently. Because doing this consistently, living a life where you do not sin, not the type of life where you sin and you do tawbah, the type of life where you do not sin, where sin is removed from your lifestyle, this is not an easy thing to accomplish. If you wanted to do this consistently, you will find that it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of observance. It takes a lot of muraqabah as well. Therefore, for the majority of us, the spiritual advice that any imam or any alim would have for us is the first step. When I say a first step, it is not to be underestimated. This is the first step, but it is the most important step in a journey that we are taking towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Staying away from haram, living a lifestyle where I take care of the bare minimum. Once you take care of that bare minimum consistently, then you will find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will teach you what the next steps are going to be to come closer to Him. Having said that, let's go into the hadith, because the hadith really shows a student of the sixth Imam looking and searching for the spiritual advice that he needs. He needs the spiritual advice. He cannot find it other places. Allow me to go through the hadith. Unwan al-Basri says, كنت أختلف إلى مالك ibn Anas سنين. He says, for years I used to go to Malik ibn Anas, the founder of the Maliki school of thought, and I used to come and go, and I used to learn from him, and he used to speak, and he used to have his sessions while he was in Medina, and that I used to hear from him, and I was a student of his. But he says, when the sixth Imam came, I decided, you know what? I'm going to go and sit and learn from Ja'far ibn Muhammad now that he is back in Medina. Unwan al-Basri says, one day I got up and I approached the sixth Imam. I told the sixth Imam that I want to become your student and I want to learn from you. The sixth Imam responded to him in a very unique manner. And there must have been some wisdom that the sixth Imam responded to him in this way. The sixth Imam told him, he said, Inni rajulun matlub. He said, listen, when you come to me, you are not speaking to a normal individual. I'm an individual that the government is monitoring. I'm an individual that every step of mine is magnified by the government. There are people that want me. There are spies that are watching me every day. This is on one hand. On the other hand, I'm a person who wants to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have my classes, I have my sessions, but at the same time, I have these ibadat, I have these adhkar that I want to carry out. And I need time for this as well. So you leave me and go back and continue going to Malik ibn Anas. What was the wisdom in Ja'far ibn Muhammad responding to Unwan al-Basri in this manner? We don't know. Maybe it was because he wanted him to become even thirstier in this, essentially this search for spiritual guidance that he was on. Nonetheless, Unwan al-Basri says, I came home, and when I came home, it was very sad for me. So I went to the masjid of the Prophet, and I asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the presence of the Prophet that, Ya Allah, if you could make the heart of Ja'far ibn Muhammad soft when it comes to me, if you could make him kind when it comes to me, if you could make it such that he fulfills this request that I have. He says, I left. The next day I came back. Again, I prayed at the masjid of the Prophet. And my whole world and the only thought and the only concern that I had was that Ja'far ibn Muhammad would accept this request of mine, that he would fulfill this request of mine, that I could learn from his knowledge. And of course you can tell that this knowledge that he is referring to, it's probably a mix of spiritual guidance and normal knowledge that he's referring to. Nonetheless, Unwan al-Basri says, this time I prayed my dhuhr, I prayed my asr, and I was such in love with Ja'far ibn Muhammad at this point, I was thinking about him day and night at this point, that I could not even go and attend the sessions of Malik ibn Anas anymore. Malik ibn Anas and his sessions, they were not appealing to me anymore. He says, at this point, I put on my na'alain and I said, you know what? I'm going to go to Ja'far ibn Muhammad. I'm going to approach him again. Hopefully this time he will fulfill my request. Unwan al-Basri says, I came to the house of the sixth Imam. I knocked on the door and his khadim, the person who worked in his house, he came to the door. Unwan al-Basri says, I told him, I said, I have come to give my salam to the Sharif. I have come to say salam to the Sharif, the honorable one, referring to Ja'far ibn Muhammad. He says the khadim went inside and I waited for a couple of minutes by the door and I sat there by the door. And while I was sitting there by the door, this khadim had told me that the sixth Imam, he is praying and he is not ready, he is not prepared to have any guests come in. He says, as I sat there and I waited, then the khadim came back. He said, you can enter now. Imagine this moment when you enter upon Ja'far ibn Muhammad. You enter upon the sixth Imam. This is a moment of ecstasy, really, for someone like Unwan al-Basri. And imagine what this moment would be like for me and for you. Just imagine if someone came and told you, listen, your life is going on and everything is fine, but tonight you can visit Ja'far ibn Muhammad. You can go to the house of Ja'far ibn Muhammad. What type of feeling would you have at this point? So Unwan al-Basri is very happy that his request has been fulfilled to this point that he can actually go and speak to Ja'far ibn Muhammad again. He comes inside, he gives his salam, and the Imam gives his salam to him, and then Ja'far ibn Muhammad puts his head down. Unwan al-Basri says there was a moment of silence between me and the sixth Imam. فَأَتْرَقَ مَلِيًّا. He started to think and think and think. And then ثُمَّ رَفَعَ رَأْسَهُ. And then he lifted his head and he said, Abu Man. He said, your name is the father of who? In other words, what is your kunya? A kunya in Arabic is that term that is used as a form of respect. When you want to respect somebody, you wouldn't call them by their first name. You wouldn't call them Hassan ibn Ali. You wouldn't call them Muhammad ibn Ali, although it's not disrespectful. But when you wanted to show more respect, you would use their kunya. The Imam asked him, he said, Abu Man, what is your kunya? He said, Abu Abdullah, which by the way is the same kunya as the sixth Imam as well, which is why you find in the hadith later on, Unwan al-Basri refers to the sixth Imam himself as Abu Abdullah as well. He said, my name is Abu Abdullah, the father of the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who trains a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says the sixth Imam then thought, and he said, Thabbatak. He said, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make you successful. And he said, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actualize this kunya for you in your life. Meaning that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it such that you are actually Abu Abdullah, the father of the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Unwan al-Basri says in the hadith, he says, when I heard these words from the mouth of Ja'far ibn Muhammad, I was thinking to myself that if I don't get anything out of this gathering, if I don't get anything out of this meeting that I'm having, this encounter that I'm having with the sixth Imam, if this is the only thing that I get, that he prayed that my kunya actually comes true for me, then I have benefited from this meeting and from this gathering. Then still I have walked away and my hands are full. My hands are not empty. Nonetheless, the sixth Imam asked him, he said, well, what is it that you want? Ma hajatuka? He said, I have been praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me the opportunity that I can come and learn from the knowledge that you have to offer. From that special knowledge that you have, I want to learn from that. When he said this, the sixth Imam then responded to him. And this is where the lines of the Imam actually delve into the advice that we were looking for, the words of wisdom that we were looking for. Of course, today we won't be able to go through the whole hadith, but a portion of the hadith I will cover, inshallah. The rest we'll leave for next Thursday, inshallah. So the Imam started to speak. He said, you have come to learn knowledge. And then with 4 words, the Imam changed the perspective of Unwan al-Basri 180 degrees. Because Unwan al-Basri has come here for what? For knowledge. The Imam said, لَيْسَ الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ. He said, knowledge is not that which you learn in the classroom. He said, knowledge is not that thing that you go and you hear from a teacher. Knowledge is not that thing that you write down in your notes. Wait a second. Unwan al-Basri had come here to gain from the knowledge of Ja'far ibn Muhammad. And at the very beginning, Ja'far ibn Muhammad is making it clear to him, if you have come for this superficial knowledge, then yes, anyone can have that. But if you want true knowledge is not this knowledge that you find in the books. True knowledge is not the knowledge that a student comes and does simar. He hears from a teacher and he narrates from a teacher. That is not true knowledge. And if this was coming from anybody else who didn't know Ja'far ibn Muhammad and didn't know what Ja'far ibn Muhammad used to do for a living, you would have assumed that this individual is a person who has never stepped foot in a classroom. Because look at him, it seems as though he is dismissing his whole university. It seems as though he is dismissing his whole school. لَيْسَ الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ. Knowledge is not this thing that you find people talking about. But we know that Ja'far ibn Muhammad, he was a man of knowledge. So he's trying to explain that this knowledge is just part of it. This is not what you're really looking for. There's something beyond this that you're looking for. This knowledge that we talk about, this hadith that you read, these verses of the Quran that you read, these are not real knowledge. There's some other real knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to. Then he added this line, and this line explains why he was dismissive of the first type of knowledge. Then he said this, إِنَّمَا هُوَ نُورٌ يَقَعُ فِي قَلْبِ مَنْ يُرِيدُ اللَّهَ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ. He said that knowledge that you're looking for, the knowledge that you really want to go after and search for, that is the knowledge that is a light that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places in the heart of an individual that guides him. What is the sixth Imam saying? The sixth Imam is saying this knowledge that you have, if it's the type of knowledge that you just hear and it doesn't have an effect on you being guided towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is not real knowledge. This knowledge does not hold much value. The type of knowledge where you gain it and you become more arrogant. The type of knowledge that you gain it and you become less patient with people instead of becoming more patient with people. The type of knowledge that you gain that makes you put yourself in front of everybody's eyes instead of becoming more and more humble. The sixth Imam is saying this is not the real type of knowledge. And we find this in our communities, brothers and sisters. The moment a person feels that from a knowledge perspective, he is at a level that is a couple of steps above the people around him, the moment he gets that degree, the moment he has that, educational achievement, then all of a sudden sometimes you will see he carries himself in a different way. He walks and talks in a different way. He sees himself above others now all of a sudden. And here is the sixth Imam, Ja'far ibn Muhammad, the person that 4,000 people come and they just listen to see what words come out of his mouth. The person that atheists that were challenging him, they praise his knowledge. This same Ja'far ibn Muhammad, he says this is not the real type of knowledge. And yet you find we will get arrogant with having a degree, a PhD, having whatever role that we have, whatever limited amount of knowledge that we have, then all of a sudden this leads to our arrogance. Ja'far ibn Muhammad, when you look at the school that he was teaching in, we know from history that he was teaching different sciences. It wasn't just Islamic sciences. And this is a common misconception that people have. No, it was a whole host of different sciences that he was teaching. There was mathematics, there was medicine, there was history, there was logic, there was philosophy, and all of this was happening at a time that the Muslim Ummah was being exposed to different schools of thought and was also being exposed to other civilizations because their works were now coming into the Muslim Ummah and were being translated from Greek mainly and other languages as well into Arabic. And the sixth Imam is teaching all of these different sciences, but as he is teaching all of these different sciences, and as he has students that are trained in each and every one of these different sciences, the same sixth Imam is telling you and me that I will teach people medicine and mathematics and alchemy, which takes any metal and it turns it into gold. But the true knowledge is not to take metal and turn it into gold. The true knowledge is to take that rusty metal of your heart and turn your heart into gold. That's true knowledge. That's why he says, لَيْسَ الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ إِنَّمَا هُوَ نُورٌ. It's a light that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts in the heart of an individual. If that individual has that light, then he is truly knowledgeable from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's perspective. Please recite the salawats. Moving on from this, then he adds this. He says, فَإِذَا أَرَدْتَ الْعِلْمِ فَاتْلُبْ أَوَّلًا فِي نَفْسِكَ حَقِيقَةَ الْعُبُودِيَّةِ. He tells him, he says, listen, now that you've come in search of knowledge, if you're really looking for knowledge, before looking for knowledge and searching for knowledge, what you have to find within yourself is the essence of servitude. Now, of course, this essence of servitude, it's not clear to us what exactly it means. Yes, we understand obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what does it mean when the sixth Imam says the essence of servitude? Then he explains two more points, and Unwan al-Basri asks him, he says, Ma haqiqatul ubudiyya? Can you explain to me what the essence of servitude actually is? And that is where the sixth Imam then explains three pillars of servitude. He says if someone truly wants to be a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he truly wants to submit himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has to do this with these three principles in mind. Inshallah, that we will leave for next week, inshallah. We will go through these three principles. Afterwards, Unwan al-Basri has a question for the sixth Imam. He asks him for even more advice. Then the Imam explains 9 pieces of advice to him on his journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let us inshallah wrap up and end tonight's talk with the masa'ib of our beloved sixth Imam. Salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Sallallahu alayka ya ibn Rasulullah. Sallallahu alayka ya Ja'far ibn Muhammad. The lives of all of our Imams are lives that are full of difficulty. They are full of pain. They are full of loneliness. And you also find this in the life of our beloved sixth Imam, salawatullahi alayhi. You find in those final moments of his, while he is on the deathbed, and he gathers his relatives around him. Hamida, the wife of the Imam, tells Abu Basir, she says, Abu Basir, you weren't there during those final moments when the sixth Imam was on his deathbed. He called all of his relatives, all of his children, everyone who was related to him. He called all of them, and all of them came and gathered around the sixth Imam. And amongst his last wasiyats, amongst his last wills, the last piece of advice that he had was that he turned to his relatives. He said, let it be clear that our shafa'ah, it does not cover the one who takes his prayer lightly. And Hamida starts to cry as she is narrating this to Abu Basir. And then other companions of the sixth Imam, Hisham ibn Salim, he says when the Imam became very sick because of this poison that Mansur la'natullahi alayhi had fed to him, he says when he had become very sick, I told the sixth Imam, I said, inshallah you will be better. The sixth Imam turned towards me, he said, no, Hisham ibn Salim. He said, listen, my dear, go and tell these people to come because I'm going to do my last wasiyah. And I want them to be a witness for this wasiyah that I'm going to do. Hisham ibn Salim says, Ja'far ibn Muhammad, you've been sick before and you were fine. This inshallah will pass as well. He's hoping for the best. And then the narration says, and these are the lines that are painful, that Ja'far ibn Muhammad turned to Hisham. He said, listen, the same one who told me that I would be fine with that sickness that I had before, he is telling me that this sickness is going to be the sickness that leads to my death. This poison is going to take my life. Imagine the atmosphere in the house of Ja'far ibn Muhammad during these final moments. As they take him and he's breathing his last breaths. Then finally when he breathes his last breaths, they say, Imam al-Qadam narrates this point. He says, after my father left this world, we didn't have much in the house. I took some of the clothing that he used to wear for his hajj, that he used to wear for his pilgrimage. I used those as the kafan of the body of the sixth Imam. And I also used the clothing that he had bought with 40 dinars. Very basic lifestyle of the sixth Imam. And then he says, I took him and we placed him inside of the grave. And then the historian Mas'udi says that when the sixth Imam, Ja'far ibn Muhammad, was placed inside of the grave, there was a tomb, and this tomb had mentioned that in this Baqi', in this area, this Imam and this Imam is buried, and Ja'far ibn Muhammad. But brothers and sisters, I ask you, if Ja'far ibn Muhammad is lonely, if Ja'far ibn Muhammad's martyrdom is as painful as it is, as lonely as he is, at least he has a kafan. There was one who became shaheed in the plains of Karbala. He did not even have a kafan. They did not even have anything to cover his body with. And that was none other but our beloved third Imam, Imam al-Hussein. The narration says that after Imam al-Hussein became martyred in the plains of Karbala, Zainab salamullahi alayha, she ran out of the tents and she was complaining to her great-grandfather. She said, Wa Muhammadah. She was sharing her sadness and her grief with the Prophet. Wa Muhammadah, Salla alayka malikus sama, hada Husaynun bil ara. This is Hussein who's in the middle of the desert. He's lying there. No one is even attending to the body of your beloved Hussein. The same one that you kept on your shoulders now is bil ara. He's in the middle of the desert. Murammalun bid dima. He is covered with his own blood. Sari'un bi Karbala. He has fell in the plains of Karbala. Muqatta'ul a'dha. His body even after death was not left to be. Even his body, it seems as though it is coming apart. It seems as though the limbs of his body are coming apart. Majzuzur ra'si min al-qafa, maslubul imamati wal rida. They have even taken his imama. They have even taken his clothing. The narration says that before the Imam went to the battlefield, he came into the tent. He asked for a particular clothing of his, and then he started to tear up this clothing of his. And many must have watched in surprise, what is Imam al-Hussein doing? And he knew that he was doing this to make sure that after he is martyred, at least that they would leave this piece of clothing on his body. But even that they did not do. Zainab says, Hussein is maslubul imamati wal rida. They have taken everything from him. And then we said Ja'far ibn Muhammad had a tomb at least, even though it was lonely, even though it is still lonely in the graveyard of Baqi. But did Imam al-Hussein have a tomb? What would they have written on the tomb of Imam al-Hussein, brothers and sisters? If Zainab had an opportunity, what would she have written on the tomb of Imam al-Hussein? Maybe she would have written on this tomb that this is the man who was killed in the plains of Karbala. He was atshanan, he was thirsty. They did not give him any water before they killed him. Maybe she would have written on the tomb of Abu Abdullah that this is the man who was killed in the plains of Karbala, and then afterwards they did not have mercy on his tents and on his women and his children. They attacked his tents, they raided his tents. Or maybe Zainab takes her hand, she writes on the tomb of Abu Abdullah, if she had this chance, that this is the man who had a 6-month-old with him in the middle of the desert. This 6-month-old was crying and was begging for water, but without words, but just with tears that this little child had. But even as much as this 6-month-old begged for water, and as much as this man begged for water, they did not give his 6-month-old any water. They shot him with a 3-headed arrow instead. Allah la'natullah ala al-qawmi al-zalimin wa saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalabin yanqalibun. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He helps all of us and He gives all of us the tawfiq to be amongst the true followers of the Ahlul Bayt, inshaAllah. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have an opportunity to walk in the steps, the footsteps of our beloved Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad, inshaAllah. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that all of our brothers and sisters who are going through difficulty, going through pain, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala frees them and liberates them from their difficulty and from their pain. And finally, last but not least, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He hastens the return of our beloved 12th Imam. Let us take a moment to recite Surah Fatiha for all of your marhumin and marhumat bin Nabi wa alih. Rahimallahu man qara al-Fatihata ma'a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. मैं कितने तीर निकालूं कि तुमको चैन मिले. मैं कितने तीर निकालूं कि तुमको चैन मिले. मेरे हुसैन मैं कितने तीर निकालूं कि तुमको चैन मिले. बता हुसैन ज़्यादा है दर्द किस जा पर के मां निकाल ले वो तीर या अली कह कर के मां निकाल ले वो तीर या अली कह कर. तड़पता देखा नहीं जाता अब तो मादर से. मेरे हुसैन मैं कितने तीर निकालूं कि तुमको चैन मिले. वो जिसको प्यार से 18 साल पाला है उसी के सीने पे جواں کے سینے سے کھینچی ہے خود سے نہ تو نے میرے حسین میرے حسین میں کتنے تیر نکالوں کہ تم کو چین ملے خزانے تجھ سے مجھے کم سینی میں چھین لیا زمانہ ہو گیا تجھ سے ملے ہوئے بیٹا زمانہ ہو گیا تجھ سے ملے ہوئے بیٹا لگا لوں پھر تجھے سینے تو مجھ کو چین ملے میرے حسین میرے حسین میں کتنے تیر نکالوں کہ تم کو چین ملے نصیب تک نہ ہوا جلتی خاک کا بستر دم اخیر تمہارا بدن ہے تیروں پر دم اخیر تمہارا بدن ہے تیروں پر تمہیں یہ تیر تڑپنے تلک نہیں دیتے میرے حسین میرے حسین میں کتنے تیر نکالوں کہ تم کو چین ملے حسین بولے مبارک یہ ماں سے روتے ہوئے ایمان نکال لو بس تیر میرے پہلو سے ایمان نکال لو بس تیر میرے پہلو سے جبھی ہو سجدے میں جس وقت میرا دم نکلے اے میری ماں اے میری ماں یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
سبحان اللہ والحمد للہ ولا الہ الا اللہ واللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر اشہد ان لا الہ الا اللہ اشہد ان لا الہ الا اللہ اشہد ان محمد رسول اللہ اشہد ان محمد رسول اللہ اشہد ان علی ولی اللہ اشہد ان علی حجت اللہ حی على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Please recite Surah Fatiha while I bring up Dua Kumayl. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخذلها كل شيء وذللها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء يا نور يا قدوس يا نور يا قدوس يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحتك الإثم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النكام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفئ بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلحمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بكسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعظم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائحي ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك. ظلمت نفسي ظلمت نفسي ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من كبيح سترت وكم من فاضح من البلاء أكلت وكم من إسار وكيت وكم من مكروه دفعت وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرت اللهم عزم بلائي وأفرت بي سوء حالي وكسرت بي أعمالي وكدأت بي أغلالي وحبسني عن نفئي بؤد أمالي وخدتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومثالي يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي ولا تفزحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجحالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي وكن اللهم بعزتك في كل الأحوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا إلهي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ذري والنظر في أمري إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي فغرني بما أحوى وأسأله على ذلك القضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدودك وخالفت بعض أوامرك فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستكيلا مستغفرا منيبا مكرا مذعنا مؤترفا لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وصاكي يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني وركة جلدي ودكة عزمي يا من بدا خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي هبني لابتداء كرمك وصالف برك بي يا إلهي وسيدي وربي أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد ما انطوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولحجابه لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا ربوبيتك هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تزيئ من ربيت أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من أويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمت. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا وبشكرك مادها وعلى قلوب طرفت بإلهيتك محققا وعلى زمار حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوارح سأت إلى أوطان تأبدك طائعة وأشارت باستغفارك مزئنة ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا رب يا كريم يا رب يا كريم يا رب وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكسور يسير بقاؤه كثير مدته فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحكير المسكين المستكين يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما من حائز وأبكي لأليم العذاب وشدته أم لطول البلاء ومدته فلئن سيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك وحبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفوك فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لأزجن عليك بين أهلها زجيج العاملين ولا أصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين ولا أبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين ولا أنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين يا غاية آمال العارفين يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته وهو يزج إليك زجيج مؤمل رحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك أم كيف يهلكه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفا أم كيف يتكلكل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقا أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رب أم كيف يرجو فضلك في إتكه منها فتتركه فيها هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاحديك وكزيت به من إخلاد معانديك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كان لأحد فيها مكرا ولا مقاما لكنك تكدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين وأن تجلى ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالكزية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل قبيح أسررته وكل جهل عملته كتمته أو أعلنته أو خفيته أو أظهرته وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي وكنت أنت ركيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت وأن توفر حظي من كل خير أنزلت أو إحسان فضلت أو بر نشرت أو رزق بسطت أو ذنب تغفر أو خطأ تستر يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك ركي يا من بيده ناصيتي يا أليما بزري ومسكنتي يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك مأمورة وبخدمتك موصولة وأعمالي عندك مقبولة حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا يا سيدي يا من عليه مأولي يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب قوي على خدمتك جوارحي واشد على العزيمة جوانحي وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في اتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرع إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في البارزين واشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين وخافك مخافة الموقنين واجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين اللهم ومن أرادني بالسوء فأرده ومن قادني فكده واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك واقربهم منزلة منك وخسهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك وجود لي بجودك واعطف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وأكلني أسرتي واغفر زلتي فإنك كزيد على عبادك بإبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وزمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا ربي نسبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني مناي ولا تعتأ من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاحه البكاء يا سابق النعم يا دافع النكم يا نور المستوحشين في الظلم يا عالما لا يؤلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بي ما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا صلوات